You can build a flawless profile and still get an entire fleet linked by the one layer nobody watches, the cookies. The fingerprint gets the attention, the proxy gets the attention, and then two accounts get tied together by a session that bled between profiles, or a cookie jar that was quietly shared. Cookies and local storage are not a convenience the browser handles for you. They are part of the identity every account carries, and when they leak between profiles, they hand the platform the cleanest link there is. This is how I keep sessions sealed per account across the fleet I run. Get the condeal. Start with the mental model because it changes how you treat every login. A platform does not only read your device, it reads what your browser remembers. The cookies you carry, the tokens sitting in storage, the IDs cached from an earlier visit, all of it is state that says who this browser has been before. Two profiles that share any of that memory are not two strangers, they are one browser wearing two names. So a cookie is not a small technical detail you can wave away. It is a piece of the identity you are keeping apart, and it earns the same discipline as the proxy and the fingerprint. What a session token actually is. Understand what actually keeps you logged in. When you sign into an account, the platform hands your browser a token, a long secret string it stores in a cookie or in local storage. Every page you load after that quietly sends the token back, and that is how the site knows it is still you without asking for the password again. That token is the account for as long as it lives, and anything holding it is treated as that account. So the moment a token slips from the profile it belongs to into another one, you have not copied a setting, you have moved the account itself into the wrong identity. Local storage counts too. Cookies get named the most, but they are only part of the memory. A modern browser keeps local storage, indexed DB, a cache of files, service workers, all of it holding state per site. A single login can leave traces in several of these at once, not just in one cookie. People picture isolating cookies, clear the obvious jar, leave the rest untouched, and the account is still logged in through storage they forgot about. Treat the whole set as one thing. Every place the browser can quietly remember a site is a place a session can hide and a place that has to stay sealed inside its own profile. One profile, one cookie jar. Here is the core discipline, and it mirrors the rule for everything else. One profile, one account, one cookie jar, never shared. Each account session lives inside its own profile and nowhere else, sealed off from every other profile on the machine. A real antidetect browser gives each profile its own separate storage by design, so the cookies from one identity can never be seen by another. The separation is the entire product you are paying for. The moment two accounts read from the same jar, the platform can match them through a shared session, and no fingerprint work will hide a link that plain. How sessions leak between profiles. So how does a session ever cross when profiles are separate by default? Almost always because someone moved it by hand. Copying a profile folder to reuse a warmed account, syncing a profile to an ordinary browser account that carries the cookies onto another machine, exporting storage from one identity and importing it into another to save a login. Every one of these takes a session that belonged to one account and quietly plants it in a second. The tool kept the jars apart and the operator poured one into the other. Treat any feature that copies or syncs storage between profiles as a live hazard. Login by hand inside the profile. Handle the login itself cleanly, because that is where a fresh session is born. The clean path is simple. Open the finished profile over its own proxy and log in by hand the way a real person would on their own device, letting that profile capture and keep its own session. No shortcuts, no injected tokens, no pasted cookies. The account signs in once, inside the identity that owns it, and the session settles into that profile storage where it belongs. A login done this way starts life, sealed in the right jar, and there is nothing to clean up afterward, because nothing came in from outside. Never import a session you were handed. Be very suspicious of any session handed to you ready-made. Pasting cookies from an unknown source, importing a token someone captured elsewhere, loading a login you did not create yourself, all of these drag foreign state into your profile. You rarely know what came attached, whether the session is already flagged or what other identity it once touched. Worse, A token minted on another machine can carry signals that quietly tie it back to that origin. The safest session is the one your own profile created over its own proxy in front of you. If you did not make it, you do not really know what is inside it. Staying logged in without wiping what matters. Staying logged in cleanly is mostly about not destroying the session you work to build. A profile that holds its cookies steadily across restarts over its own proxy looks like a real device someone keeps using. The mistake is reaching for the clear button out of habit, wiping the very cookies that kept the account trusted, and forcing a fresh login that reads like a brand new shell every time. Let each profile keep its own session for as long as the account naturally would. Persistence is not laziness here. A steady, long-lasting session reads as an ordinary person, while constant logins from a blank profile read as automated cookies that track you across sites. Know that some cookies are built to follow you between sites, not just within one. Tracking cookies, embedded widgets, the little login with one account buttons scattered across the web. All of these can set state that a whole network of sites shares. If the same tracking cookie shows up under two of your accounts, the parties reading it can line the accounts up even though each sat behind a clean proxy. This is another argument for one sealed jar per profile and for keeping profiles lean. The fewer cross-site cookies a profile collects, the fewer threads reach out from it toward your other identities. The reflex to clear cookies when something breaks. Resist the reflex to clear everything the moment an account acts up. Clearing the jar logs the account out and throws away the trusted session it built. And it often makes things worse, because a suddenly fresh browser hitting a valuable account looks more suspicious than the original problem did. Clearing is not even reliable, since some state cached IDS entries in IndexedDB values a site rewrites the instant you delete them, is built to survive a wipe and quietly restore itself. So treat clearing as a deliberate decision, not a nervous twitch, and lean on isolation from the start rather than cleanup after the fact. Never reuse a token across accounts. Never let one session serve two accounts. It is tempting to shortcut a warm-up by cloning a working login, but a token reused across profiles is a direct device-level link, the same account state showing up in two places that are supposed to be strangers. The platform sees one session touching two identities and draws the obvious line. Each account earns its own login, born in its own profile, and keeps it there. The whole reason you separate everything else falls apart the instant two identities share a single live session, however clean the rest of the setup looks. Verify each jar is actually sealed. Do not take isolation on faith. Check it. After you set up two profiles, confirm that a login in one does not appear in the other, that clearing one leaves the other untouched, that no cookie or token ever crosses between them. It is entirely possible to believe two profiles are sealed when a misconfiguration or a careless sync has quietly joined their storage. A quick side-by-side check, log into one, then confirm the other is still a stranger, catches that before you have linked two accounts by trusting a separation that was never really there. Keep a record of every session. Keep a plain record of which session lives in which profile tied to the same map you already keep for proxies and numbers and emails. When you have a handful of accounts, this feels pointless. And when you have 50, it is the only way to know at a glance that no jar is shared and no login has wandered somewhere it should not be. The record is what lets you find the profile that holds a given account instantly, instead of opening the wrong one and creating the exact link you spent all this effort avoiding. When sessions do expire and accounts need to log in again, do it on each account's own timeline, not all at once in a batch. A dozen identities that all sign back in during the same minute, in the same rhythm, are linked by that pattern even when every jar is perfectly sealed. Real people log back in at scattered human moments, so let each account refresh its login when it naturally would, spread across days, rather than marching the whole fleet through a fresh login on one schedule. The timing of your logins is data too, and a tidy synchronized burst is a pattern worth avoiding. Retiring an account. Archive, then wipe. Finally, deal with sessions when an account is retired, because a dead account is not the end of its data. If you might ever want the account back, archive its profile properly, export it through the tool so the session and its jar travel together intact, and store it away from the live machine. If the account is truly finished, wipe the whole profile, not just the visible cookies, so no leftover session lingers on the machine to bleed into a future identity. A retired account should leave either a clean sealed archive or nothing at all, never a half-deleted jar in the corner. The honest limit. Keep the honest limit in view, same as always. Sealing cookies removes one more shared thing that can link accounts, the session layer, and it is a layer most operators leave wide open, but it does not make any single account behave. A perfectly isolated session on an account that spams all day still gets that account caught on its own behavior, and clean cookies cannot save it. What session isolation buys you is the same thing every other layer buys, that when one account falls, it falls alone, with no shared jar dragging the others down. It is one clean layer, and it only works stacked on the rest. I run my own fleet with exactly one sealed cookie jar per account, logins made by hand in the profile that owns them, sessions kept steady and never poured from one identity into another, because I would rather hold that discipline than lose a badge to a session I let wander. I run these farms myself, so when I point you at the browsers and proxies that keep storage genuinely isolated, you are seeing the real stack, not an affiliate guess. The full guides and tested picks are at multiaccountops.com. The session hygiene written out in full, the leak checks I actually run, and honest reviews of the tools that keep each jar sealed. If you want a fleet where no two accounts ever share a session, that is the place to start. Subscribe for more honest, tested multi-account ops. Next time, keeping accounts warm without constantly logging in. Which sessions stay alive on their own? Which ones have to be touched by hand? And how to keep a fleet active without ever sliding into the same synchronized pattern that